For 10 years now, India has been trying to get Masood Azhar listed as a global terrorist at the United Nations. Every time, India hit one roadblock: China. Tonight we tell you why that may change. The United Nations Security Council is meeting next week. The question they face is an old one. Should Masood Azhar be designated a global terrorist? This is the fourth such proposal in the last 10 years. 3 countries have moved this proposal: America, the UK and France. They want Masood Azhar to be declared a terrorist. The fourth permanent member in this group is Russia. It has always backed India's position. There's nothing to suggest it won't this time as well. That leaves us with China. Which way will Beijing lean? It's keeping its cards close to its chest.
The UN Security Council 1267 committee has clear provisions on the listing of terrorist organizations and related procedures. China will continue to participate in these discussions in the relevant sanctions committees of the Security Council and its subsidiary agencies in a responsible manner.
Apparently, Beijing cannot decide what it wants to do. Shielding Masood Azhar this time will come at a cost. A high cost. The global sentiment is strongly against the terrorist. Voting against Masood Azhar will be very expensive for Beijing as well. It has major CPEC investments in Pakistan. It's a bit of a catch-22 situation. China will not want its infrastructure projects threatened, and it will not want world powers to be alienated any further. While project deals are with governments, and understandably the Chinese government may have done deals with the Pakistan government, it is inconceivable that China would have been able to build all that it has without the tacit backing of the terror lords who rule those regions, the likes of Masood Azhar. Their nuisance value is legendary, and China does not want to upset them. So Beijing will most likely declare its position only at the United Nations. If it really wants to be seen as a superpower, it will have to take some tough calls and rise to the occasion. The next question is this: what will this designation mean? What if Masood Azhar is designated a global terrorist? What changes in his life? Let's break it down for you. If Masood Azhar is sanctioned by the United Nations, all members of the United Nations will have to freeze his assets without delay, and that includes Pakistan. A travel ban will be imposed on Masood Azhar. He will face an arms embargo. This means that all United Nations members will be required to do everything in their power to deny arms access to Masood Azhar. All of this should have happened a long time ago, but as they say, better late than never. For now, Masood Azhar enjoys the protection of the Pakistani security establishment. On Thursday, we had brought you the inside details of Masood Azhar's safe house in Bahawalpur, and tonight we are taking you a step further. WION has accessed the most recent footage of Masood Azhar's Bahawalpur safe house. Despite sanctions from the Pakistan government, it is business as usual for the Jaish-e-Mohammed. Pakistani policemen guard the gates of this complex, and locals sing his praises, which basically sounds like the regurgitation of force-fed, well-rehearsed scripts. See for yourself.
Behind these large steel gates is a sprawling compound that serves as the headquarters of the Jaish-e-Mohammed. Men from the Pakistani police are stationed right outside. They are stopping anyone from going in. This is Bahawalpur, a city in Pakistan's Punjab province. Once upon a time, it was called the City of Nawabs and Palaces. Now it serves as a base for Masood Azhar, the man who's the mastermind behind several terrorist attacks on India. This safe house is a fortress. It's right along Pakistan's National Highway 5. Around the corner is a Pakistani military academy. And barely a kilometer away from this mosque, an F-6 fighter plane is on display. Reportedly, this complex is equipped with several modern facilities and is being used by the Jaish-e-Mohammed to recruit more terrorists. But local authorities have completely cut off access to the site.
When the Daily Times, Pakistan, did this investigation into some of these outlets of these banned organizations, proving with video evidence that has been now shown to authorities that these banned outfits were functioning over there. If there is recruitment going on, in what manner, what journalists can say without any iota of doubt is that they are functioning, they are operational, and they are saying it. It's not us who's saying it. it's the operators and the supervisors of those facilities who are saying it in personal capacity to undercover reporters that yes, we are operating.
Soon after the Jaish-e-Mohammed was proscribed by the United Nations in 2001, Masood Azhar started a charity. He chose Bahawalpur as his base and raised funds to build this safe house. On the streets of this city, the fear of Masood Azhar is palpable. The locals defend him, parroting the Pakistani security establishment.
Jaish-e-Mohammed is not a terrorist group. They just want to spread Islam. I offered prayer for Masood Azhar, so he is not a terrorist. It is absolutely a wrong impression of him.
But people from within Pakistan are raising questions. Zahid Hussain, an analyst and author, claims the lack of political will to act against Masood Azhar has allowed him to thrive.
The Pakistani government had promised to take action, but they have not done so. So problem is that it has come back to haunt Pakistan, not only because of it poses a great dangers to Pakistan's own national internal security, but also actually there's always a danger that they could use Pakistani soil to launch attack across the border.
It's not a hidden fact that Masood Azhar enjoys the support of the Pakistani military and security establishment. Some experts believe that his resurgence would not have been possible without the support of the Pakistani army and the ISI. Masood Azhar has now spread his tentacles across the Pakistani state. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Meanwhile, the Pakistani security establishment has placed similar curbs on Jaish-e-Mohammed's madarsa in Balakot. This madarsa is now out of bound for journalists. Nobody can go. This is the madarsa that India had struck last week. We're talking about the preemptive strike on the 26th of February. A team from news agency Reuters has been denied access to the site for the third time in 9 days. The reason being given to them is security concerns. Now, here's the interesting part. The Pakistani government has repeatedly said that the Indian strike in Balakot caused no damage. And to prove that point, they even took a group of journalists to the site. Of course, these were journalists that were handpicked by the government. Even these people were not allowed to go to the Jaish-e-Mohammed Madarsa. In fact, WION's Pakistan Bureau Chief Anas Malik has been trying to gain access to, and he travelled all the way to Balakot, but he was not allowed anywhere close to the Madarsa. Meanwhile, this is what the Reuters report says, and I'm quoting, "The building that reporters could see was surrounded by undamaged pine trees and did not show any signs of damage or activity, but given the view, the assessment is very limited." In other words, Reuters is saying it's hard to tell how much damage has been done. 2 days back, the very same agency, Reuters, had reported that the Jaish-e-Mohammed Madarsa is still standing and virtually unchanged. This claim was based on images from commercially available satellites. Essentially, the report tried to discredit the operation carried out by the Indian Air Force, and Reuters was trying to tell the world that there had been no damage. Exactly what the Pakistani government has been saying. So now we ask, without access to the actual Madarsa, how could Reuters decide the extent of the damage? There is another question worth asking here. If Pakistan claims that nothing happened in Balakot, why has it cut off access to journalists? We asked this to a Pakistani journalist and managing editor of Daily Times, Ahmad Shaheen. This is what he said.
I think the fence that we called national security is the reason why people who are not the most likable journalists would not be given access. Independent journalists, international journalists would not be given access to those places. But it wouldn't be the case with a few the select journalists who would be given access, who have been allowed to go there and report. And also the more criticized and the not so liked journalists of Pakistan, forget about the international reporters for now, they're also very reluctant to intervene too much and to go into those areas that the state is not very comfortable with those journalists going. I think in order to have a clearer stance on the factual point of what happened in Balakot, I think the government shouldn't be about the government allowing or not allowing. It should be about the government giving an open invitation to local journalists, to progressive journalists, to international journalists, and to the ones that are even speaking up a little bit about facts and confronting the facts that are coming out. I think it's the government who needs to give them access rather than journalists trying to fight for it.
The crux of the story is this. After the Pulwama attack, Pakistan is feeling the heat. Global powers have stepped up scrutiny and terrorists are scurrying for cover. Some high-profile names forced to go into hiding. We're talking about Hafiz Saeed, the mastermind of the 26/11 Mumbai attack. He has been barred from delivering his weekly Friday sermon. And this is very big because this is the first time in many years that such curbs have been placed on Hafiz Saeed. This comes after the Jama Masjid Qadsiya. This is a mosque in Lahore. It was sealed by the local police. This complex is considered to be the headquarters of the Jamaat-ud-Dawa. Hafiz Saeed has never before been stopped from delivering the Friday address. Reports did say that he asked for permission from authorities, but he was denied. Hours later, Hafiz Saeed went into hiding. This is the first time that he has skipped the Friday prayers. He has always been present despite such takeovers in the past by the Pakistani authorities for his Friday sermon, not this time. It seems like the establishment wants Hafiz Saeed to remain out of the public eye until the storm passes. Earlier this week, the Lahore headquarters of the Jamaat-ud-Dawa and the Faleh-e-Insaniyat were sealed. 120 suspected terrorists were reportedly detained. These moves are part of the so-called crackdown by the Pakistani state on terror groups. But most of these attempts appear half-hearted. Prime Minister Imran Khan continues to drag his feet on the case of Masood Azhar as well. He's sitting on the file that recommends the arrest of Masood Azhar. His government says that he wants to consult with the opposition and the military before he decides. And he will have to decide soon because the United Nations will decide next week. On the 13th, the United Nations Security Council is meeting to take a call on Masood Azhar. That proposal coming up. Of course, we'll be tracking that very closely for you here on Gravitas. The Ram Janmabhoomi is a matter of faith. Some say that this is purely a property case and that's how it should be looked at. An issue concerning the faith of billions of people with opinions of numerous shades is neither binary nor simple. But we can safely say that the Ayodhya dispute is certainly a political issue. From the day the Babri Masjid's locks were unchained to now, it is evident how the case has changed party politics in India. And as we await another dance of democracy, a general election due in just a few weeks' time, Ayodhya has come back to the fore. Here's a look at why the Ayodhya dispute matters in Indian politics. So after several legal challenges, judgments and appeals, it is back to talks. Now, Ayodhya, is a very, very sensitive case. It's a matter of faith and politics. So who is doing the talking is also very important. Let's tell you about the mediation panel. The Apex Court has appointed 3 members. Former Supreme Court Judge Justice F.M. Khalifullah, he will head the team. The other 2 are spiritual guru Sri Sri Ravi Shankar and advocate Sri Ram Panchu. They've been given 8 weeks to mediate. And they have to file a status report in 4 weeks. That's just before the general election takes place in India. And that's not all. The court has banned the media from reporting the mediation proceedings. The venue of this mediation will be the town of Faizabad in Uttar Pradesh. It's barely a few kilometers from the disputed site in Ayodhya. The proceedings will be held in camera. The court says that the focus is to arrive at a permanent solution to this long-standing dispute.
देखिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने क्लियर तौर से ये मैटर मीडिएशन को भेजा है। जस्टिस कलीफुल्ला जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट के रिटायर्ड जज हैं वो मीडिएशन के चेयरमैन रहेंगे। श्री श्री रविशंकर जो एक सामाजिक कार्यकर्ता हैं वो इस मैटर में मीडिएशन रहेंगे और जस्टिस पंचू इस मैटर में मीडिएशन रहेंगे। ये मामला फैजाबाद में होगा। 8 हफ्ते के अंदर मीडिएटर को अपनी रिपोर्ट सुप्रीम कोर्ट के सामने सबमिट करनी है और सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने क्लियर तौर से मीडिया को मना किया है, मीडिया इलेक्ट्रॉनिक और प्रिंट दोनों को इस मैटर की रिपोर्टिंग करने से।
स्ट्रिक्ट कॉन्फिडेंशियलिटी विल बी मेंटेन इन द मीडिएशन सो एंड वी हैव ऑलरेडी सेड that we will cooperate with the mediation. Therefore, mediation panel has been constituted and now whatever we have to say, we will say before the mediation panel, not outside.
This dispute involves 2.77 acres of land in Ayodhya where a 16th century mosque built by Mughal Emperor Babur stood. It is believed that the mosque was built on the ruins of an ancient temple marking the birthplace of Lord Ram. Now, even before the mediation has begun, there are calls against one of the members in the panel, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. He is known to have played a vital role in a few peace negotiations in the past. He's been quite vocal about the Ayodhya dispute, and those very comments are now inviting criticism. His neutrality is being questioned.
अपने इस क्लेम को अयोध्या पर नहीं छोड़ेंगे तो हिंदुस्तान सीरिया बन जाएगा। ये इनका स्टेटमेंट है। और उन्होंने ये भी कहा कि मुसलमान एज अ गुडविल गेस्चर इसको छोड़ दें। तो जब इनका कनेक्शन सब्जेक्ट मैटर से है, इन्होंने अपना पूरा पोजीशन साफ कर दिया है कि वो किस पार्टी के तायद में है। देखिए, ना सिर्फ सब्जेक्ट मैटर से इनका ताल्लुक है, बल्कि इनका पार्टी से भी ताल्लुक है। तो ये रिग्रेटेबल है कि एक ऐसे शख्स को सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने मीडिएटर अपॉइंट किया है जो न्यूट्रल मीडिएटर नहीं है।
There seems to be no such criticism on the other two panelists, thankfully. Advocate Sriram Panchu is no stranger to mediation. In fact, he heads a company which is called the Mediation Chambers that offers services in the same. He is often credited for enhancing the role of mediation in the Indian legal system. And retired Justice Fakir Mohammad Ibrahim Khalifullah, who chairs the panel, is a veteran. He specializes in labor law. He had given many crucial judgments during his tenure, even if some of them were dissenting judgments against the majority view. Justice Khalifullah has expressed hope to resolve the dispute amicably.
The Supreme Court has appointed a mediation committee headed by me. I am yet to receive the order copy. Therefore, for the present, I can only say that if the committee has been constituted, we will take every effort to resolve the dispute.
Amicable resolution, that's what the country wants. If mediation helps, why not? But this is hardly the first time that the court has attempted mediation in the Ayodhya matter. A 3-judge bench of the Allahabad High Court had tried mediation in 2010. They failed. 2 years ago, the then Chief Justice of India, Justice K.S. Keher, had suggested mediation, but there was no follow-up. In fact, even before the Babri demolition took place, there were attempts to resolve the dispute, and all of them failed. So what's to say that this effort will succeed? Has the Supreme Court just attempted to try mediation one last time, or has it done so to put the matter on the back burner again? We don't know. The Ram Janmabhoomi issue is an issue of faith. There are others who say that the Ayodhya case is a simple property dispute and that's how it should be seen. An issue concerning the faith of billions of people with opinions of numerous shades is neither binary nor simple. But I can safely say that the Ayodhya dispute is certainly a political issue. From the day the Babri Masjid locks were opened to now, it is evident how the case has changed party politics in India. As we await another dance of democracy, a general election due in just a few weeks' time, Ayodhya has come back to the fore, and as expected, it is making political differences. Take a look at why the Ayodhya dispute matters in Indian politics.
The year was 1986. The then Indian Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi had just overruled the Supreme Court order on the Shah Banu case. One reason was to keep hold of the traditional Muslim vote bank. Months later, he did the so-called balancing act. Rajiv Gandhi unlocked the doors of the Babri Masjid and created a new chapter in Indian politics. One which saw blood, violence, a mosque being demolished, and many long legal battles, some of which are running till this day. And one which also polarized Indian politics forever. The matter now heads to another attempt at mediation. Following Rajiv Gandhi's political decision to open the gates, the BJP saw a meteoric rise. 86 seats in 1989, 120 seats in 1991, 161 seats in 1996 with the status of being the single largest party. In fact, Atal Bihari Vajpayee formed the government in 1996 and then in 98 and 99. But it's not only the BJP whose political fortunes changed thanks to the Ayodhya dispute. The Ayodhya case, or the raking up of the Ayodhya case, was the go-to political card for the Congress too. To play up its secular credentials, to accuse its political opponent, the BJP, of being anti-secular. And here we are in 2019. The Supreme Court's order to attempt mediation has potentially ruled out Ayodhya as an election issue. Or has it? 8 weeks of mediation will potentially run through India's general election. While the mediation may not be legally binding, the attempts will surely help one action? The political parties of India, that is.
I would say this mediation committee should persuade the Muslim parties, please go and build a masjid somewhere else. That's the only solution, and that will also be the solution if we fight the court case. There is no binding on this. My fundamental rights are involved. Even Supreme Court's grandfather can't do anything about it.
In matters of faith, mediation based upon the widest possible consensus amongst leaders of different faiths is the best solution under the prevailing circumstances. In case the mediation were to fail, then obviously the last resort would be the Supreme Court. But we have seen in recent verdicts, particularly relating to Sabrimala and others, that in matters of faith it is very difficult to rationalize a judgment for its logical cogency and legitimacy.
Over the next 8 weeks, there will be high decibel politics. Politics of the kind that polarizes, even destabilizes democracy. Will it make an impact? The BJP had consolidated its vote bank in many states on the bank of the Advani Rath Yatra and has gained electorally in every election since. The Congress has lost its vote base in key North Indian states since 1986. But it has also ruled the country with coalitions for 15 years after 1991. It's anybody's guess who will win this bout. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
US President Donald Trump's former campaign manager Paul Manafort has been sentenced to 4 years in prison for tax and bank fraud. He was convicted last summer of hiding millions of dollars of income from his time as a political consultant in Ukraine. He was jailed leading up to this sentencing. The former Republican consultant asked for mercy, but he showed no remorse for his actions. Paul Manafort has also been ordered to pay a fine of $50,000. But that is not it. He is also due to be sentenced in another case next week on 2 conspiracy charges to which he pleaded guilty last September. All the charges stem from an inquiry into whether the Trump campaign colluded with Russia to win the 2016 US election, the Russia meddling case. Manafort is only one of the 34 people and 3 companies charged by Special Counsel Robert Mueller to be tried. While Manafort's lawyer acknowledged that his client has accepted responsibility for his conduct, he reiterated that there is no proof of Manafort's involvement with any Russian government official during the US presidential election.
Mr. Manafort finally got to speak for himself. He made clear he accepts responsibility for his conduct. And I think most importantly, what you saw today is the same thing that we had said from day one. There is absolutely no evidence that Paul Manafort was involved with any collusion with any government official from Russia.
Meanwhile, President Trump, who has called the Mueller investigation a politically motivated witch hunt, has not ruled out giving a presidential pardon to Paul Manafort. The latest from Venezuela now. The country has been hit by a major power outage, forcing President Nicolas Maduro to cry sabotage again. The government has been forced to suspend work and classes due to a massive blackout. According to local reports, the power outage has affected the capital of Caracas as well as 15 Venezuelan states, with some describing it as a national blackout. The U.S. Special Representative to Venezuela, Elliot Abrams, has pledged that Washington would slap more sanctions on the Maduro government. Abrams said that there would be more sanctions on financial institutions that are carrying out the orders of President Maduro.
We have sanctioned a number of financial institutions already, and we're going to expand the net. We have under consideration other institutions which I won't name because we don't want them to get advance notice, but there will be more sanctions on financial institutions that are carrying out the orders of the Maduro regime to steal funds from Venezuela and hide it all around the world.
Abrams was asked about the granting of temporary protected status to Venezuelans, to which he said that the issue is under consideration. It will be discussed with U.S. Foreign Minister Mike Pompeo. Secretary of State is his designation.
The Venezuelan diaspora is fantastic, incredible. all the more reason we should give them TPS so that they're focused not on the concern that they may be deported to a country while Maduro is there where their lives are risked, but focus on how they build a future for Venezuela. And I think that speaks for another policy reason why temporary protective status is eminently a good policy.
Meanwhile, a U.S. journalist who was detained by Venezuelan authorities for over 12 hours has claimed that he was pushed to support President Maduro.
Now I'm going to be the journalist, and it was very clear that they wanted me to say several things, political things. They wanted me to say that Nicolás Maduro is still the president. The way they were guiding the questions, it was Nicolás Maduro is still the president, Juan Guaido. What would happen if I said I was the president here in the United States? And I imagine that we've seen this before, that when these videos are recorded, that they might release some type of edited version to make it look like I said something I really didn't say, but I just responded sincerely.
The journalist Cody Weddle has said that his interrogators covered his face with a ski mask and accused him of having contacts with senior military officials. Now it's the 8th of March, also observed as International Women's Day, the day once celebrated to commemorate women's struggles for equal rights around the world. It has now evolved into a day where headlines and arc lights are dominated by commerce. There is no dearth of sales promos, from limited edition products to special discounts and offers in an attempt to trick women into feeling special for one day of the year. This ignores the vast majority of women on the planet who observe the day in a variety of ways that reflect their concerns and aspirations.
Bombardment of advertisements and messages of discounts and special offers from various brands and commercial outlets in the name of making women feel special and cherishing womanhood. That is Women's Day for an average woman across the globe. That brings to the question, when did Women's Day start first of all, and why? Women's Day was supposed to be the anniversary of a strike by working women fighting for equal rights. Yes, you heard that right. Fighting for equality, equal wages, equal political rights, equal opportunities. But today, Women's Day has been reduced to nothing but a commercial gimmick. A day that brands and outlets use to make money at the expense of women they pose to support. And once they are done celebrating women for one whole day in a year, it all goes back to normal. The same gender discrimination, oppression, violence against women and whatnot. Not just brands and companies, even political leaders cash in on Women's Day celebrations. They pose with women, give them flowers and gifts, honor them with some awards, declare a public holiday. But none of them talk about gender equality, women's emancipation or empowerment.
Дорогие наши женщины, поздравляю вас с Международным женским днем, с праздником, который все мы очень любим. Этот весенний день всегда наполнен цветами и подарками, озарен радостью наших женщин, светом ваших улыбок.
It is not just a holiday. It is not about presents and flowers. Women across the globe are still aware of the significance of this day. And some are protesting and raising their voice to get what they believe is rightfully theirs.
We are humans before we are your sisters, before you are your mothers, before you are nieces. We are humans first. And so feminism is a very necessary conversation. And we require that the people in power who have participated in gender-based violence, who have done anything to perpetrate gender-based violence, have to be brought to book according to Chapter 6 of the Constitution.
We want to highlight around the city the women's strike and the fact that without us the world stops and that there are no other ways to do things.
Women around the world don't need one day in a year to be celebrated. They would much rather have important issues addressed, such as achieving gender parity, women's emancipation and safe environment for all women across the globe. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.